Hi friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Roxanne, Carne, personal wardrobe stylist, and transform your wardrobe and transform your life. If you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. And while you're here, if you enjoy this content, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. You know, all the things, you know what to do. And if you are not new, thank you so much for returning to watch what I hope is really valuable content for you. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some of my expert tips on how to style your looks for and things you really need to consider when you are getting ready for an important speaking engagement or if you have a media appearance. So whether you're on stage or on camera or sometimes a combination of both, you know, you really want to make sure that you're showing up. And this is really coming off of the heels of a really amazing experience I had this past weekend. I actually was the MC for the very first TED Talk group in called TED Talk Addison Women. It was the inaugural event where we had 9 amazing speakers, and I was asked to MC the entire thing. So it was so great. It felt really good to be back on stage again and really sharing and introducing all of the great thought leadership coming out of those speakers. And as I was preparing for this particular event and then also kind of sharing some tips with the speakers leading up to the event, I thought that this would be really great, tips to share with you here on YouTube. Now, I had written a blog post years ago a little bit about this, but I actually updated it. So the blog post is, the link to that is in the description, and we'll also make sure to pin it to the top of the chat when this video is over. But I'm sharing that with you because today I'm going to be talking about 7 specific tips. However, the blog post has a few more tips. I think I have about 5 more. So make sure that you head over there to get the full scoop. But with that said, let's jump into things. So, you know, when you are having a speaking event, there are certain things that you really want to make sure that you are covered. They have your bases covered in terms of prepping your look for that particular event. And again, this is going to be, you know, what you're going to be thinking of if you are on stage, or if you have a television interview, or you're a guest on a panel. All of this applies. Okay, so let's jump into tip number 1. For my first tip, is really important for you to know your role and the environment. Okay, so when we're talking about your role, you've got to consider, okay, am I going to be the main speaker? Like, is a spotlight on me? Or am I going to be sitting on a panel and being kind of interviewed with a small group? Or am I a moderator? Or if you're on set for filming, for whether it's going to be tape television, live television, or something that will be on a TV show or something like that, you really want to also kind of think about, again, what is your role? Are you being interviewed? Are you going to be sitting and standing? These are all things that you need to take into consideration, right? In terms of your role, because that ties into what you're going to wear. You know, if you're going to be standing like I was this past weekend, I was standing for hours, right? And I was in full view. Knowing the environment was very important because I knew with that TEDx platform, there is no podium, right? So I'm not going to be leaning on anything or having notes, on a typical podium with a microphone. No, I'm going to be kind of walking around the stage. It's kind of all eyes on me. So you want to think about, again, how you're going to be situated. Now, if you know that you're going to be sitting down, that's also really an important consideration for what to wear because, some people may not feel comfortable, for women, wearing a skirt if they know they're going to be sitting down. Now, can it be done? Absolutely. I've worn skirts on, on stages and on panels before. But if whenever I did, I made sure that the length was appropriate. And then also making sure that my legs were just always closed, across gently, right? So there's a way that you can do it. But again, these are things that you really, really need to know. Now, I talked about knowing your environment. So the environment is really going to be that set. That you're going to be performing on, for lack of a better term. Who's your audience? Are the audience, is it going to be, professionals like you? Perhaps, is it going to be the topic, is it going to be something that's a little bit more casual? Again, all of these things are going to inform what you want to wear. You're going to also be thinking about the temperature, how cold is it going to be? How warm is it going to be? And I will tell you this, the theater that we were in for the TED Talk that I just emceed, the theater itself was frigid. However, on stage and backstage were two different stories, okay? It was very, very, on stage, you've got lights on you, so it's warm. So you really want to be keeping that into account as well in terms of making sure that you're not going to overheat backstage. And for me, it was a little bit different because I kept going on and off stage for the entire program. Whereas a speaker, they did their thing and they could go back to the green room and the dressing room. Not me. I was hanging out backstage the entire time. And it was pretty warm, but the clothes that I wore, I didn't feel like I was overheating. It was comfortable for me, but not to the point where I was like sweating or anything. So yeah, knowing your role in the environment is really, really important. The next thing I want to talk about are colors. Okay. So, I'm huge on colors and wearing the best color for you. That is super important. And we're going to come back to that. So let's put a pin in that. But I also want to talk about, you've got to select your colors strategically, right? You have to think about and ask the producer, the production team, the event coordinator, whomever it is, as far out in advance as you can. You want to ask them, what is the colorways, for the set? Okay. On stage, the backdrop, what visuals you're going to have, right? What color, if we're going to be sitting down, are the couches? The reason is that you don't want to wear colors that are going to blend in, meaning you don't want to wear the same colors as the background, ideally, okay? Because you'll just blend in. No one's going to see you. But also, you don't want to wear anything that's going to clash color-wise or look off with the background. So as much information as you can get about how they plan on coloring the stage or set will help inform you on what colors you should wear that are going to tastefully complement what they have, but then of course, obviously complement your skin color, your hair color, and your eye color. Okay. So like I said, I was going to come back to this. So once you figure out kind of the general color that you can go with that will present well on stage, then we've got to figure out what hue, what saturation, what intensity, what value of that color is going to actually work for you. And that is where when you have your colors determined and have a color analysis, this is where it's going to be so valuable. So, as a personal stylist, one of the things that I do with all of my clients when we start working, as part of their style foundation, is that I do a full on color analysis. Okay, because no matter, I like to say, no matter if you're going to the ball game or the ballroom or anything in between, you need to make sure that the colors that you're wearing are on point for you. Okay. So, I do color analysis. If you're interested in booking a color analysis with me, I do it both in person here in the Dallas Metroplex as well as virtually. So I do have a link for that included in the comment section and the description. But colors are so major because you want to make sure that people are not going to be, kind of like distracted by a color that does not work for you, and they'll be remembering you for that. Okay. So that was tip number 2. Now, number 3 is really centered on wearing something that is going to be memorable yet authentic. Okay. So, and everyone has completely different styles. You know, what you like may not be as the same as another a peer of yours, a friend of yours, or anything like that. But regardless of that, I really, really recommend, especially if this is a really big event for you, and it's super, super meaningful. I think that you really should look for an outfit that makes you stand out for the right reasons, you know. And of course, we're going to be taking into account the shape. Of course, fit is paramount, but take that extra time to wear something that is memorable. I have clients, in fact, I have a client coming in 2 days for her speaking engagement. She's keynoting a really, really important event for her fraternity and her professional fraternity. This is a big deal for her. So working with, you know, someone like me is helping her even, you know, not only build out the outfit, but making sure, coming back to colors, that everything's going to be aligned with her visually, but then also with her authentically, her personality, the way she moves, how she wants to present, the whole vibe. Okay, so again, really take that time to invest in a look that's going to be memorable, because a lot of times, again, if you're going to be on stage, a lot of times you'll probably be recorded. There's probably going to be a videographer there, and there's probably going to be photographers too. So you want to get those really, really great shots of you on stage looking your best. All right, next up, I think we're on number 4 now. Yes, this is an important one. So you need to avoid thin stripes, okay, and distracting patterns. So the deal with thin stripes is that if you wear thin stripes on camera, it creates something called the moire effect. You know, sometimes when you watch TV and someone is wearing thin stripes and it looks wavy, it's just the way that the colors are being read by the camera, and it creates that kind of optical illusion. While to the naked eye, you don't necessarily see that happening. If you know this is going to be recorded, you definitely need to avoid wearing anything that has thin stripes on it. Okay. I mean, honestly, I would probably avoid stripes altogether. If it's, you know, if you're like, if you can't determine what's medium and what's thin, if you have to ask, don't wear it. Go for a solid instead. Or if you're going to do a pattern, go for a different pattern. And speaking of patterns, I mentioned before not wearing something that's too distracting. Okay. So again, we don't want dizzying, distracting patterns on screen or on stage, because we want people to see you, right? I'm not saying that you can't have any pattern. You can definitely have some pattern, but make sure that the pattern is not overwhelming you and people are seeing more of the pattern than your outfit. So just definitely choose that wisely, just to be on the safe side. If you're unsure about, you know, is this a pattern that's distracting? You're not really sure how to determine that. Go for a solid instead. Okay. All right. So number 5 is be mindful of the mic placement. Okay. So when we're speaking on stage, and this is also going to be the same if you're on television as well, or being filmed, a lot of times you're going to have a mic put on you so that you can be heard clearly. Okay. So you've got to ask, again, ideally ahead of time. So I'm giving you these tips because these are things that you need to think about before your day that you're on. Okay. But if you can find out from the production team, what type of mic am I going to be using? Am I going to be using a handheld mic? Am I going to be wearing a lapel mic that's wired? Or am I going to have a wireless mic? Am I going to have a mic that comes over the ear like this? That's like what I had this past weekend for the TED Talk. We really need to figure that out, because that is also going to be a determining factor on the specific outfit that you wear. I have seen on-set disasters where people are showing up in clothes and the mic that they have requires a battery pack. It's wired and there's nowhere to put the battery pack. And if they have something that is super, super, super fitted, you know, the sound guy is trying to jam that battery pack like inside the dress and like zip around it. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes the back of the dress has to be open for it to sit on the bra strap, if it's super fitted and they can't close it because you can't close the dress, right? So if you're going to be, for example, wearing something that requires a battery pack, make sure that you are wearing a bra. You know, a bra is a good place for it to be put on, but wear something loose so that you do not see the shape of the battery pack on your clothing. Especially, you know, it's one thing if you are on stage and you're not turning around and they're just seeing you just straight on. But it's another if you are, you know, maybe displaying something and you have to turn around, and we're going to see the side or the full back. We don't want to see a bulge of that battery pack ideally. Another placement for that battery pack is if you wear trousers. That's usually where a lot of them are placed. They can be placed on the back of your trousers, or sometimes if your trousers have roomy pockets, they can go right, the battery pack, depending on the size, can slip right into your pocket. So I just wanted to share that, those examples with you, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a panic mode when we're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, how am I going to wear this microphone if it is something that's wired. But again, if you're going to do a handheld, then there are other things that you need to consider. You can't be wearing, you know, jewelry that's like jangling and, you know, clicking and all that stuff, bracelets, you know, that slide up and down or are making noise, because you're going to be hearing that through the mic. Okay, so you really need to be careful with jewelry. And then especially if you will be wearing a microphone that is taped to the side of your face, or if it's a lapel mic, you don't want to be wearing necklaces or long earrings that are also going to be noisy. So be really careful with that. Okay, number 6, bring a touch-up kit. So as a stylist, whenever I am going on set, or even when I'm going to clients' home for closet edits, wardrobe makeovers, and so on, I always have a styling kit on hand. Now, when I speak, I have kind of a mini kit, and the mini kit is going to have things like deodorant, right? Again, these, if you're on stage and you are being lit up, it is going to be warm. Okay, so we don't want to be sweating, right? So bring some deodorant. For makeup, bring some blotting papers, right? I always got my blotting papers on me. I have oily skin, so I'm always blotting all the time. But you want to have that so that you, again, are going to look great on stage and on camera. Bring your makeup, you know, for light retouches right before you go on, or if you are emceeing like I was this weekend, you know, in between, you've got to touch it up because I'm, you know, going back and forth for a few hours. I need to make sure that the makeup remains on point. So bring your extra makeup, bring some stain removing wipes or pens, just in case, you know, something gets on your, you know, your outfit. If it's a lighter color, you don't want it to be seen. Bring kind of a Tide stick with you or something like that, just to kind of take care of it on spot. But one other thing that I'll mention about that is I recommend not eating anything, not eating anything while you are in your look for the stage or for the screen. You don't want to risk anything getting on your clothes, right? So I really would avoid eating, or if you're going to drink water and drink it away from your body. Okay, so nothing like splashes on you or anything like that. Don't drink anything that's color. Stay away from the Gatorade, all that, because things happen. Someone could bump into you. You know, you may miss your mouth. You may misjudge. Let's not take any risks while we're wearing our on-stage outfits. And a good segue, actually, one thing I'll mention about that too is be careful when you're washing your hands in the restroom when you have your outfit on. So this didn't happen to me then, but a few years ago, I was doing an episode for the PBS TV show Fit to Stitch. And maybe it was, I think it was 2 years ago, whatever. Anyhow, I was wearing a light colored, beautiful, beautiful suit. And I had just gotten my makeup done. So then I changed into my clothes and then I went to wash my hands. And the faucet when I put it on in the bathroom, it just like sputtered out and like water drops went on the suit. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And it was just, just a few minutes before I was due to go on. So I'm grabbing like all the papers I can and I'm just fanning. I actually remember because we were filming during the summertime and in this Texas heat, it's brutal. I actually went outside for a couple of minutes for it to evaporate. Thank goodness it did the trick and it did not leave any water stains. But if you're going to wash your hands and you are in your outfit, I would recommend just turning the faucet on very gently and then just washing gently and drying and making sure that nothing drips on your clothes. Okay. So that's tip number 6. And then for my final tip is this: wait as long as possible to put on your outfit. Okay. So these were tips that I actually shared with some of the speakers from this TEDx talk this weekend. And they all listened to me, which was great. I told them, do not wear your clothes that you are going to be wearing on stage. Don't sit in the car in them. Don't walk around the set in them, right? Because again, anything can happen. And also, we don't want wrinkles. If you're wearing a pantsuit or a skirt suit or a great top and great trousers, whatever it may be, the bottoms, when you sit down, they are inevitably going to wrinkle. Now, you can certainly bring a steamer along with you if you do need to get anything out. But for the most part, let's kind of avoid the wrinkles in the first place by just holding off on putting your outfit on as late as possible. Now, of course, you're going to now have to allow enough time for the sound tech team, right, to get you all wired up if you are wearing a wired mic. So you want to allow enough time to put your clothes on so they can do that and have it be comfortable for you. But yeah, I know this past weekend, the ladies were sitting in the green room, and as it got closer to then when they were going to speak, then they changed into their clothing to come on stage. So yeah, just hold off on putting that outfit on as long as you can, and try as much as you can particularly if you are going to be standing for your speaking gig. Just don't sit down when you have it on. Just keep it on and stay standing, do your thing, and then afterward you can sit down, you can do all the things, you can change back into street clothes, whatever you want to do. Okay, so those are my 7 tips for how you can how you should, things you I can't speak, things you should consider when you are styling your look for speaking events and media appearances. And don't forget, I have 5 extra tips on my blog post, so make sure you check that out in the description and the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, please do like, share, and subscribe. But definitely share it with other speakers that you may know of, or people that are maybe starting to take that step in their career and get on stage, because I really want it to be helpful and I want you really to be as prepared as possible. And of course, if you feel like you're at a stumbling block and you do not know what to do or where to go in terms of styling your look for your speaking engagements, this is an area where I excel. Please do contact me. Again, I have info in the description on how we can get together to do a style intensive, and just have you not only looking fabulous, but feeling fabulous, and most importantly, being remembered. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know some comments if you got some extra tips as well that maybe I haven't covered that you have found that works for you. If you're a speaker, please drop that in the comment section. And if you have any other types of videos that you would love for me to make in the realm of women's fashion and style and personal styling, please drop that in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.